I'm a boomer. I'm 65 and I'm done. I'm done trying to look successful. I'm done buying things just because there's a newer version. And I'm done going to places that I don't really want to go to. I'm done socialising with people that I don't particularly want to socialise with. And I'm definitely done chasing a six-pack. Now you might think that sounds terribly negative, like I'm giving up on life. But it doesn't feel like that. Quite the opposite, in fact, because I've not lost interest in life. I've just grown to realise that there are things I'm more interested in now than I've ever been. And it comes down to 5 things I've stopped pretending that I care about. Most of these things have absolutely nothing to do with each other, and yet, one by one, they've all started falling away. Let's start with something fairly superficial: appearance. When I was younger, I cared too much about looking the part. I ran a business, I wore a suit, I found accountants a job for a living. It was the appropriate dress code for that job. It made perfect sense at the time. Today, I have absolutely no desire to put on a suit unless there is a very good reason. And there are only 2 suits in my wardrobe now. I've got a black one for funerals and a dinner suit. Then there's my hair. I used to go to the hairdresser regularly to have blonde highlights put into my mousy light brown hair. Now, I don't want to dye my hair to pretend that it's not grey. Yes, it's a bit thinner on top, but mostly it is still there. And I get it cut short every couple of months just for convenience, not for appearance. So I can jump out of the shower, dry it with a towel, chuck in a bit of product, done. Let's talk about teeth. I don't want to spend a fortune on cosmetically perfect teeth. Sorry, my American viewers. I know they're not perfect, but they are healthy and every single one of them is mine. Then there's that holy grail of the body beautiful, a six-pack. Would I like a six-pack? No. This gnarly old body with its scars is best kept covered up. I'm not into spending the next 6 months starving myself trying to get a six-pack that will never be on show. Listen, I'm 40 years too late for that, trust me. Now don't get me wrong, I haven't stopped caring about myself. I go to the gym, I lift weights, I eat sensibly to keep my weight down, I walk up to 5 miles every single day. In fact, I will go so far as to say that I'm more interested in strength and fitness now than I was 40 years ago. I've noticed the same thing with stuff. I embrace technology wholeheartedly. I have bought more gadgets than I care to think about over the last 20 or 30 years, especially in that Apple ecosystem. But these days, I really couldn't care less about having the latest upgrade. I'm perfectly happy with my iPhone 13. It does the job. So do my first generation AirPods and my 9-year-old Apple TV. Let's not forget cars. New cars were once exciting, simply because it was new. I always had to have the latest model. Now I find myself asking, is it actually better enough? Not better, better enough. Because, of course, the new model is technologically better. That's how they get you to buy the thing. But does the difference matter enough to do anything about it? Increasingly, I find that my answer is no. And then there are experiences. There are things I used to really enjoy doing. Going to Elland Road to watch Leeds United. Have you seen the scarves in the background? Playing golf. Maybe not enjoying it particularly. And then I liked to go horse racing at York, the racecourse just down the road, and Wetherby. And I even went to Royal Ascot a few times. And then there's other things like fine dining, restaurants, my favourite bands in concert, long haul travel to exotic destinations. I enjoyed all of those things. But these days I don't necessarily dislike those things. I still watch Leeds United, and I watch Royal Ascot, and my favourite bands too. I just watch them on television, and that's what I prefer doing. I don't want to spend half the day getting to some venue and back and navigating crowds and crowds of people. More about that later. I still enjoy a decent restaurant, but do I want to spend a lot of money to sit in a noisy room, get mediocre service, and eat miniature portions of food? What do they call it? Art on a plate? No thanks. I prefer somewhere, well, nearby, walking distance, early bird, at 20 quid for 2 courses, in and out in an hour, and back home to watch TV by 8 p.m. I still enjoy travel, but long haul travel, the boring flight, the jet lag, not for me. I'll stick to my weekly trip to Scotland in March and my trips to Portugal. Thank you, that will do me nicely. I've become much more conscious of everything that's required to get an experience these days. And then there are people. This is where it gets slightly more challenging for me, because I've become much more willing to say no. I don't feel the need to make new friends just because some retirement expert on YouTube thinks I should have a bigger social circle in order to avoid loneliness. I think choosing solitude is something entirely different to loneliness. I don't want to turn every casual acquaintance into a friendship. I'm open to making friends, but increasingly I don't make the required amount of effort to take it any further. And then, of course, there are social events that appear in my diary through other channels organised by my extrovert social wife. There's one tomorrow at 7 p.m. And yes, I do sometimes go. I've got to. I can't say no to everything, because being married is also about doing things that matter to the other person. But I've become much less willing to say yes simply because saying no might look rude. And then I realised something. All these apparently unrelated things are actually the same thing. They're all a trade. Every time I say yes to something, I'm making a trade. I'm trading my time, money, energy, attention, and my peace. And yes, I'm getting something in return. But what? And is that thing worth the trade? That's the question that I ask myself. And that explains something I've been struggling to put into words. It wasn't necessarily a bad trade back then, 20 or 30 years ago, but it can be a bad trade now. Let's talk about careers. When I was in my 30s, I was building a business, I wanted to make money, I craved success and recognition and awards. I actively pursued more responsibility, more people to lead. I solved problems, I took risks. I worked incredibly hard, sometimes up to 100 hours a week. And yes, I got a lot from that. I couldn't have retired at 44 otherwise. Although I have to admit that amount of effort, it just wasn't sustainable. I don't look back at 35-year-old me and think, you idiot. He was making a trade. And for him, at that point in his life, it absolutely was worth it. But if you offered me the same trade today at 65, no thanks. I don't want a business with employees. I don't want more responsibility. I don't need a job title to define me anymore. And I certainly don't need people to think I'm important or successful. Yes, I played that game for over 20 years and I'm done with it. And this is important. I don't regret playing that game. It gave me a life that I am very, very grateful for. I just don't want to play it anymore. And I think this is where you can get yourself into trouble. You keep making trades because an earlier version of you made them. You keep buying stuff. You keep going to far-flung places. You keep making an effort to expand your social circle, chasing those old goals, playing that same old role just to keep your identity. And it's not because you've decided it's still worth it. It's because you've never stopped to ask if it is. Now I do ask, is it worth the trade? But there's an important other side to this. I'm not trying to spend as little money, time or energy as possible. This isn't about being frugal. Quite the opposite, I would say. I've recently joined a health club and it costs considerably more than the one I was using before. Why? Because the facilities are so much better. The budget gym that I was a member of, well, it was only good really for lifting weights, maybe going on the running machines, and I don't do that. This new club has 2 swimming pools, indoors and out. It's got rackets, and I might actually take up paddle or pickleball. It's got a spa retreat that I've actually been to 10 times in a month. It's got a cafe, a work hub, and I use it all. I do a bit of work, I train, I relax, I come home, and I just feel so much better. And it's showing up on this Oura Ring of mine. That trade passes the test. Another example is this. I'll happily spend money on one exceptional day with my son and wife. I'd much rather do that than spend the same amount on a succession of inexpensive, forgettable experiences. That day with my son and wife, it might cost quite a bit of money, but it passes the test. And then there's YouTube. We can't escape that. This channel consumes a fair amount of my time and energy. I think about videos, I script them, I record them like now, I edit them, all by myself. Nothing is outsourced. I read and reply to lots of comments. I'm sure you've seen that. Then I start planning the next video and the whole cycle starts again. Now, by any sensible definition, this is work. And yet, here I am at 65, I choose to do it, even though I technically retired years ago. And I do it because of what it gives me back, helping others through my knowledge. And also, it keeps me curious and having a purpose, creativity, and making connections with you. They are important things. The feeling that I'm still building something, doing something, and I'm not finished with life. And I'm creating a legacy for my son too. So this isn't about doing less, it's about trading your resources more deliberately. Ask yourself, what will this cost me? Time? Energy? Money? Attention? Peace? And what am I going to get back? Because every yes is also a no to something else. There's only so much time in the day. And once you really understand that, no becomes a very useful and powerful word. I used to think freedom meant having the power to say yes to the opportunity or the experience, the promotion, the money, the responsibility, the next thing. At 65, I think freedom really means saying no. No thanks. I don't need that. I don't want to go. I don't need to impress you. I don't have to join in if I don't want to, and I don't have to keep wanting something just because I wanted it when I was 35. Now, I don't think that is giving up on life. It's becoming more selective about what gets a piece of it. So yes, I turned 65 this year and I'm done. Not with life. I'm done wasting it. I'd love to know, what are you done with? Not because it's bad, but because it's simply no longer worth the trade. Let me know in the comments. And if this video resonated with you, watch this one next. It's about why staying at home is the best thing you can do. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.